Internets, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com. And as we usually say on the Combat Jack Show, this portion of the show has been sponsored and brought to you by Bevel, the superior shaving system. Listen, I'm going to go into my spiel later, but it's the best shaving system on the market for people that have coarse and curly hair. Go to getbevel.com, GETBEVEL.com. Punch in the promo code COMBAT, COMBAT, that's me, for 20% off all your purchases and services. That's getbevel.com. Use the promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. And now back to the show.
Yo, what's up? This is Trill OG, Bun B, Rebel UGK for life. This is a Loudspeakers production, understand?
Get ready for combat.
No escaping.
Get ready for combat. Get ready for combat. Yeah. The Combat Jack Radio Show. Stand up.
Internets, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com. What's up, Premium P?
What's going on, Combat?
Man, this is the post All-Star weekend, man. I thought we might not could make it today, man.
Well, listen, we survived through it.
Yo, man, last Thursday, man, I almost drank my kidney out. Like, I couldn't, I'm not young anymore, man. It was so hard to recover. It took me up until this morning. Like, I slept till 2 o'clock in the afternoon just to recover, man.
We hit the city, and we went to party after party after party.
Man,
We've seen a lot of the internets out there.
Shout out to New York City, and shout out to everybody that came in town, man. And, it was a beautiful thing. And this episode, man, I'm really happy, man, because, not only do we have a recurring guest on the show, but we also have people in the studio we got H-Town in the building.
Cheer.
We got it's Houston, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking New York.
It's not Houston.
It's not Houston.
It's not Houston.
We got Houston, Texas.
We got a Houstonian.
We got a Trill gladiator.
Yes, sir.
In the building. Listen, internets, I'd love to welcome to the Combat Jack Show, Mr. Bun B. This is like your fourth time on the show?
At least.
Yes, your fourth time. And Dr. Anthony Pinn.
Glad to be with you.
Yes. Now, you gentlemen are doing something really interesting. You guys both teach at Rice University.
Yes.
And you have a course called Hip Hop and Religion.
Yeah.
And you guys have been teaching this course at Rice University since 2011.
That's correct.
And now you guys are taking it where?
It's online for free.
Really?
Online for free. It's been so successful on campus. We cap it at 200. It has gone extremely well. But we were getting email and phone calls from folks outside of Houston, outside of Texas, wanting to take the class. And so this online course is our answer to their question. They can take the class and they can take it for free.
What is hip hop and religion? And what's the connection? And why a course?
Well, understand that I spent much of my youth in the pulpit. I was a young preacher who loved hip hop. So the connection between religion and hip hop for me was just natural. And as an academic, I wanted to bring that interest to the classroom. I study religion and I love hip hop, and I wanted to share that with students. So I've been teaching off and on for about 21 years now, a course related to religion and hip hop. When I got to Houston, I needed to have in the classroom some of the artists who had influenced me over the years. So I reached out to one of my PhD students and asked her to be in touch with Bun B to see if we could get him to come in and give a lecture.
Right. Now, why Bun?
He's brilliant, right? His music has been influential. He's thoughtful, well-informed, just a genius. And to have him in the class was not only a benefit for me, but it was something the students in Houston had to have access to. It only made sense.
Now, did you, as someone that was in the pulpit, did you find that your attraction to hip hop or your love or your passion for hip hop, was that something that was contradictory to what you were doing in on the pulpit? From
the perspective of the church, yeah, there was a problem. But from my perspective, no. That hip hop provided a much more realistic depiction of the world.
Right.
That what I had been taught as a minister and what I gave folks in my sermons glossed over the shit that was life.
Right.
But hip hop paused, looked at it, and wrestled with it. So for me, it provided a grammar, provided a language for talking about life that was real. It was real. So it only made sense. Yeah, older folks in the church had a problem with it, but black churches have always had a problem with music. It begins with the blues. They have a problem with gospel. They're going to have a problem with hip hop. But for me, this was just natural. It was my music.
So in the church, did they scarlet letter you, man? Did they were like, this guy right here, this guy Pinn is a problem?
No, because I would sneak it in the sermons.
Okay.
Right,
like, give us an example.
They saying hallelujah, and they don't realize what. So the message was easy, right? The message was easy to get in there. You take scripture, you can have Jesus and I'm wrestling with issues that are lodged in the Bible, and then explain this through the message. And folks who didn't listen to hip hop still got it. You could sneak this language in. The young folks understood.
Right, because you were speaking.
The older folks you let them get happy. It didn't really matter.
Right. Now, you have a PhD from Harvard.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. Like, you're not just some cat that just invented this thing, just like on some spur of the moment.
No, I like to believe I know a little something.
But seriously, when you listen to particularly contemporary hip hop today, I think the last thing that would come to someone's mind is religion. Like, how do you connect the two? Like, let's see how you connect the two with, like, say, someone like a 2 Chainz and his sermonizing on the mic. And how does that boil down to, how's that connected to religion?
Let me start with a general statement, and then we'll move to particulars. So preachers and hip hop artists share an understanding that stories matter,
right.
That you've got to tell stories in a way that are compelling, that pull people in. You got to tell stories in a way that allow folks to say, shit,
right.
This makes sense to me. They talking about my life, right? That just makes sense. Then there are explicit ways in which these two connect. All you have to do is really listen. As soon as Jay-Z says, you're in the presence of King, scratch that, you're in the presence of God, how are you not talking about a religious theme? No church in the world. How are you not talking about a religious theme? As soon as Tupac starts talking about Black Jesus, patron saint of the thugs, how are you not talking about religion? The problem was churches, for example, and to a great extent, Nation of Islam, 5%ers, there are ways in which the moral vision and the ethical vision of hip hop might run contrary to their idealized vision. But if you keep it real, you understand that within both contexts, you have people trying to make the best they can in a world that is somewhat fucked.
So we're talking about taking the vision, taking the word, taking the teachings, and removing the wall that is dogma, that prevents one from really, in the religious world, tends to limit one's humanity.
Well, Prof. Bun B and I recognize that religion is really about trying to make life meaningful.
Right.
That religion is a certain way of wrestling with the huge questions of life. Who are we? What are we? Why are we? Where are we? Hip-hop has done the same thing, but with swag. Right. And so we in the classroom just help students to recognize these connections and talk about these connections in ways that are thoughtful and deep.
Now, Bun, when you were tapped by, pause.
That's a good pause.
That's a good pause.
Professor Pinn.
Good catch.
To do this course, what ran through your mind, man?
Well, I always tell people that, I'm never scared to take a chance on something, but I'm not going to do it if I don't feel like I can commit to it 100%. And this was one of those things where I had to really be sure that I was willing to commit 100%.
Right.
Because you don't halfway teach a college course. You don't halfway teach children. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it was really about. And then you look at, a black man like Dr. Pinn being, the most tenured man of color at Rice University. I don't want to do anything to hinder that process. Right. He's really making a major contribution in the classroom, on the campus, and then there's the university itself. Rice University is a smaller university. It's a private university, and they have never been significant numbers of people of color taking classes at Rice University. So to have someone like this who is really, putting basically his entire academic career on the line by bringing a person like me who has no academic experience. I don't even hold a college degree, So, there's a very big chance that Doc was taking on me to do the class. So I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to let the students down. And for me, most importantly, I didn't want to let hip hop down.
Right.
Because this would have been a serious black eye in the game had I not taken this seriously and committed 100%.
Right. Now, what was your attraction to the concept of hip hop and religion?
Well, a rapper being a teacher in college. I mean, that was the first thing. Like, that kind of a message, I think, sends shockwaves through the minds of young black men. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that they've known me as a person who, even though I've had this rough life and I've done some things that I may be not proud of, I've been very honest and very real about everything I've done and who I am as a person, And I think a lot of people know that, I don't take myself seriously as a person, but I take what I do very seriously, And if I started, I'm going to finish it.
Right.
And so for me, that was really all I had to really think about. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it all the way through. And you got to, make sure that you do it to where Doc don't look crazy and shit, you don't look crazy.
How tough is it making that adjustment from being an artist and
it was very different for me because, again, I don't come from the academy. Like, I wasn't a college student, so I wasn't I wasn't familiar with either side of the podium. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that took something, that took a little while to get used to. And then the fact of having to actually craft lectures based on different reading assignments and things like that. Every 2 days, 2 days a week I'm teaching. It was usually a Tuesday and Thursday. And, I got a lecture every day. So I'm not just kind of sitting there in the back with a projector waiting to show a video or something like that. Like I'm actually speaking 20, 25 minutes straight in class, lecturing to the students. And that's a different way of communicating than I'm used to, but, Doc is an incredible mentor in the sense of, just really just constantly instilling confidence in me. He never, ever wavered in the fact that he believed I could do it.
Right.
And every time I would call him or go to him like, Doc, man, I don't know, man, this topic is rough. And it's like, well, what do you got? And I tell him what I got. He's like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You're on the right path. Like, you got this, man. Like, quit worrying about it. Right. You got this shit. So those little words, of encouragement really gave me the confidence to go in week after week after week and craft these lectures and, having to do the hard work of reading all the literature and then double reading the literature so that you have a good grasp on it so that when the kids of the class choose to question certain things about it, you're in a position to speak exactly to what they're talking about. You should know exactly the point that they're trying to make and should be able to speak to that point because we're not really there to correct them. There's no, the kind of conversation we have really have no right or wrong answer.
Right. It's interesting. We speak publicly and I've spoken publicly, but about a couple of weeks ago, I had to speak at my kid's high school. And that was that's when I had the biggest butterflies because I was like, these kids are here to learn. Mm-hmm. These kids, because they're exercising that muscle. It's not an audience. It's kids that are training their passion to really learn from whoever's in front of them and to even challenge that person. So it was a whole set of it was a whole mindset that I had to go into that classroom with. Did you find yourself?
Absolutely. Right. On a daily basis, it was something that I had to deal with because say, for example, Monday, I have to get up, I have to get ready because I'm teaching on Tuesday. Tuesday I'm teaching. Wednesday I have to start preparing myself because I'm teaching on Thursday.
Right.
And I teach on Thursday. And then say Friday or Saturday, maybe if I got shows, then I go out of town and I do a couple of shows and I come back Sunday. And Sunday I got to start the beginning part of that lecture. I got to start doing maybe rereading the reading assignments for those 2 days. And then Monday morning I'm right back to working on that lecture, And it's just something that you kind of have to train yourself to do, and then untrain yourself and go back to where you came from for your day job and then regroup again at the beginning of a week. So again, there was a lot of times where I felt like, I'm tired mentally, physically. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm grasping this right. Let me call Doc to make sure I ain't off note on this shit. So I don't get up there and talk about, some shit.
Right.
And then I'm really not talking about it from the viewpoint that I should be in that aspect,
What religions are covered in your course, man?
The online course, it's a shorter period of time. So we only cover Christianity and Islam. But when we have the students for 15 weeks, we cover a range. And the most challenging is getting them to think about humanism or atheism as a religious option.
Now I noticed that wasn't your dissertation from Harvard on humanism as...
You going way back, yeah.
No, but I'm saying, but I'm saying...
Hey, I told you, this Jack, he know his shit. This Jack.
But wasn't humanism as a religion? Can we talk about that?
My understanding is, again, that religion is a way of framing human experience. It's a way of wrestling with and unpacking human experience, trying to make some sense of the shit of human life.
Why do we do what we do? Where are we going?
Exactly. That's what religion is at its core. And any system of thought that wrestles with those sorts of questions constitutes a religious tradition. And so to the extent that humanism and atheism are all about helping humans find their place in the world, make sense of the world, be comfortable with who they are in the world, is a religious system.
I find that the religions that resonate the most with me are the ones that move from being religious. Because I find I don't want to be in terms of this means this and this means that. But I find religions that tend to focus more on religion as opposed to spirituality are the ones that tend to be most removed from humanity. Would you agree?
Well, because the difference between spirituality and religion for me is this, that spirituality is about a connection to something greater.
Yes.
And how you express that connection, how you deal with that connection, that's on you. religion is so concerned with institutions and formal doctrines and creeds that it chokes out this connection to something that's greater.
Right. I found the most spiritual people tend to be those that don't subscribe to a particular religion. I find that the most spiritual people are the ones that really respect every individual around them and really goes by the credo of teaching, I'm treating this person like how I would like to be treated. What do you say to people that don't ascribe to a particular religion, but they emanate this humanism, they emanate this spirituality?
I say, do you.
Right.
That I'm not really concerned with how people categorize themselves. I'm Methodist, I'm Baptist, right? I'm Hindu, I'm a Muslim. I'm much more concerned with how folks treat each other,
right,
and how they treat this fragile world in which we live. You name it how you want to name it.
Why is it that, and you spoke about this also in one of your interviews, why is it that when we talk about the concept of atheism, why is it that is like the most taboo to a lot of black people?
Because we labor under the assumption that black folks are Christian, have always been, ain't going to be nothing but Christian.
Right.
Right. But there's another reason. We have a very low opinion of humans. And so the attitude
as African
as
American,
as a people,
African Americans in particular, everybody in general, low opinion of the human animal. So we assume if you don't have a God or God's holding you in check, anything goes and you just act wild.
Right.
That if you don't have a God or gods, you can't be moral, you can't be ethical. So the assumption
that's the assumption that a lot of us carry.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And that some folks, some black folks, will even argue that humanists and atheists have surrendered the racial identity. They ain't black no more. They bought into some white shit and they ain't even black.
Right. But atheism in itself is a religion, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. And it's old. Atheism and humanism are old within black communities. Think in terms of the spirituals. We can't accurately date the spirituals.
Right.
We don't know when black folks start singing spirituals. In the same way, we don't know when the blues actually begin.
Right.
Don't think in terms of the race records of the 20s. Right? Blues, we can't accurately date, but we do know that this musical form, whenever it starts, is suspicious of this God stuff, makes fun of this God stuff, embraces a way of moving through the world that is humanistic if it's not atheistic in orientation. And then you move through time. You got things like the Harlem Renaissance. Richard Wright, famous writer, an atheist. Lorraine Hansberry, Raisin in the Sun,
Yes.
an atheist.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, man, this is deep.
Were
Douglass.
they criticized in their community for that?
Oh, yeah, criticized for it, but they didn't care.
Right, Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass was political.
Right.
He knew that he had to talk a certain way in order to get support. But there are private letters by Frederick Douglass that point out he not believing this stuff.
Right.
W.E.B. Du Bois. Man wasn't a Christian just because he wrote about church. I write about churches. I'm not a Christian.
Right, okay.
But Du Bois argued he lost any reliance on any kind of God idea early on in life. And by the time he's studying in Germany, it's all gone.
Right. What's your faith now, sir?
I'm an atheist.
Okay.
Now,
You're an atheist.
To the extent I have a community, sometimes I hang out with the folks in the Unitarian Universalist Association. It's a small denomination, but for the most part, I just try to live right.
Right. Let me ask you guys something, man, because this is something that has been puzzling me for a long time. I grew up a Christian, and then for a while, not that I was an atheist, but I didn't follow anything. And then 25 years ago, I became a Buddhist. But the issue I've been grasping with is how can we justify the black community's attachment to Christianity based on the contemporary history of Christianity and how it relates to black people?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I would argue that I think that most of the common, I won't say common, but most modern day Christians really don't have a strong sense of Christianity
Right.
because Christian churches don't teach Christianity. They teach the Bible.
Right.
So they're not teaching everything that Christianity has, I guess, experienced or, experimented in any more than I'm sure Catholic Church really just deals with the wrongs that they've done within the Catholic Church. Like, we're not here to teach the history of the Catholic Church. We're here to teach the history of Christ and God and Jesus and that kind of a situation.
And I'm not a Christian, but I do have to say this. Forget about T.D. Jakes.
Right.
Forget about Creflo Dollar. Right. Forget about Eddie Long.
Yeah.
And think in terms of Nat Turner,
Okay.
Denmark Vesey,
Right.
Gabriel Prosser. These
Yes.
were enslaved preachers who said, look, this Christian thing ain't about conforming to the slave system. It's about ripping it up.
Right.
Right. But they understood themselves as Christians.
Remixing it.
Remixing it.
Yes.
Right. And their attitude, no, is what God really wants is us to be free,
Yes.
to be fully human. And some white folks got to die in the process, then they got to die. Right. So Christianity and black communities have always had a layered and complex relationship. There are times when Christianity has sought to pacify black folks, right, to
Well,
get
that
them
was-
to buy into the system. Yeah?
And still to this day,
Yeah.
you hear in contemporary, even with the whole Black Lives Matter thing,
Yeah.
where they misinterpret the teachings of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, and they're like, no, you all have to be peaceful and pacifist, and that's not necessarily what Dr. Martin Luther King preached.
Now, he wasn't a dreamer. He was an activist.
Yes,
Right, but the dreamer is easier for us to deal with.
right. Well, easier for mainstream to deal
Right.
with.
Right.
Talk about your how you address like voodooism in your class. Because we're talking about religion. We're talking about particularly people of African descent. And I think one of the most fascinating things, particularly with our ancestors, is how different tribes, different nations were mashed together on those slave ships. And I'm talking particularly of Haiti. And we didn't necessarily know how to communicate with each other. But here you have the slave master beating us down with this Christianity. And we're taking this Christianity and we're incorporating it with all our different, orishas and Santeria and the whole nine, and mixing it up so that it becomes a unifying voice so that we can overthrow the oppression. Can we talk about that, man?
I mean, you are absolutely right. I mean, Haiti is a prime example, right? You've got a major revolt that is successful. Right? Successful and highly dependent upon voodoo.
Right.
That the Haitian Loa, these gods, play a major role in what these folks do. It's deeply influential. Places like Cuba, you have the African way, or what we commonly call Santeria.
Yes.
Again, they took Catholicism, turned it on its head, and made it do a different type of work. And white missionaries and colonists were stupid enough to believe that folks would just accept Catholicism because it was their thing.
Right.
Right? That you let these enslaved Africans do whatever they want to do because they'll come around to the truth. And they took this tradition and made it do a different work. And that is just brilliant. It seems to me there's a relationship, and we've not really had time to wrestle with this in the class, not this particular class, but there seems to me a relationship between how voodoo has understood the world and how hip-hop understands it, that hip-hop has taken elements from the dominant society and made these elements do a different type of work. Right? The DJ has taken elements and made these elements do a different type of work.
Right.
The MC has changed and altered religion so that the dominant society doesn't even recognize this anymore. The art has changed the dynamics of the art world, made it do a different type of work. The dance has taken bodies that were despised, right, understood as ugly because they were brown and black,
Right.
and made them defy gravity in a way that forced folks to understand them as beautiful, as supple, as meaningful. It seems to me they've done to the dominant culture what voodoo and Santeria has done. They conjured the dominant culture and made it do a different type of work.
And you see the effect of it
It's
right
brilliant.
now all over the world. We had Tariq Nasheed on our show last year, and he really blew me away because, I was asking him, like, what is it, particularly with this dominant, quote unquote, dominant society that holds on to racism? And he blew me away, and he said, racism is another form of religion. Like, what do you think of that? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Have you ever thought about that? Or
Well, I mean, if you look at Christianity and the way that it was pushed upon the slaves, it was pushed upon them with the intention of, really keeping them docile, keeping them, keeping that energy down. And keep in mind that they use Christianity and sayings and scripture to justify their actions. Right. And we see a lot of that today in what the media likes to call media likes to label as Muslim extremists.
Right. And this is a quote unquote Christian nation.
Right. And, I think the context of them constantly identifying these people as Muslims when most Muslims would not identify them as Muslim. I mean, we in Christianity have an extreme, look at the Klan, and, the Klan used Christianity and religion to justify their actions, so it doesn't surprise me that these kind of comparisons are made. It just surprises me that today that people are still willing to buy into the notion of racism as a concept. Right. Like when, there are examples from every race in dominance in certain levels. So we can't look at the Asian as weak. We see now that they're dominant in certain things. We can't look at the Latina as weak. We see their dominance in certain areas. So, it's mind-boggling now to me that racism still exists. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's so much infighting within the races that it's hard to really unify, right? Because all black people don't see the black experience the same way, right? So you have black people who hold black people down more than these other races would hold black people down. You have, we have a class structure within our individual race system. So there's, in every race, there is, the educated black man that calls the uneducated black man a nigga. Mm-hmm. There's the educated and affluent Latino man or Mexican. Well, I'm in Texas, the Mexican man that calls the poor Mexican the wetback. And there, all these different negative terms that exist within
different castes.
These races that are used. There's the illusion that the only people calling black people niggas are white people.
Right.
It's in terms of derogatory, which couldn't be further from the truth. Right. It's something that's very real, it's palpable, and it's still there. So until black people stop negatively affecting the progress of black people, then we can never expect to unify and deal with the issues of other races that try to objectify us. We have to get off our own objectification within the race.
But isn't this the age-old conundrum? Isn't this the age-old issue? Like, one of the things that I love about reading historically, going 700 years back or 1,000 years back, or when you read the Bible or any other type of scripture, you see that the same issues that we deal with today has always existed. Is it like this is the never-ending quest to reach a higher level of humanity?
See, and I'd change it just a little bit and say that white supremacy is the religion, racism is its doctrine.
Okay.
And I think it persists. It
Thank you for that clarification.
Because racism pays the bills, and this has been the case since the 1500s. Yes. Racism has paid the bills. And one of the dilemmas is black folks and brown folks and yellow folks have bought into this, have bought this doctrine and practice it themselves.
I'll tell you one thing. From me, first of all, class is in session. That's first of all. Class is in session. Internet's, this is the class. It's not an episode only. But one thing I think with racism from my end, from what I see, is households bringing up their kids to not the way that they were brought up. Not really breaking the chains and breaking the barriers. And I give, for example, like, I don't remember my family, anybody really dating a black woman. I am.
Right.
Because I love her. For me, love, I don't see no color through that. But I feel like I'm breaking the chains. I'm showing my daughter the difference that if she wanted to be with a black man, that's okay.
And then, with you, because I know Pete, obviously I know Pete as a friend for a while. And even with the way that you're naming your children is breaking the cycle of not giving them, the typical Italian names. Yeah. To show, to really not label them or lock them in. Like, to where, like, most people, are named like John, Peter, and all of that. Those names are dying. We were talking about that.
Yeah, Maria, Joey. But also,
You wouldn't go with Joey, right?
No, I don't want...
Because I was just... When he said he was having a boy, I was like, Petey Jr.
Yeah, that's what I
he
said.
was like, you know,
Forget about it.
Big Petey, you know, Big Petey and Little Petey. I mean, it's a Big Petey and Little Petey. That's all I thought. And he was like, no, I don't want to hold that kid back with an old name. I want to give him a modern name and a better chance at opportunities, you know. And I don't think people realize how much names play into that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, for me, it's like when we speak about racism being alive, and I'm not only talking about Italians. I love that I'm Italian. I just don't love that. You know, I see a lot of, like, even with Russians or, you know, and even with Asian people and, you know, a lot of different nationalities. I think that they let their kids know. I see it. I've seen it where it's like, you know, they don't like black people. So my kid's not going to like black people. And it could be on the other side. It could be black people could be doing that. But I think some way, in my opinion, that somebody needs to break the chain to show them, like, look, accept people for who they are. You know? I mean, what we're speaking is it goes back way more. When you talk about racism being alive and how it, I mean, but what I'm saying is in the household, how I feel is show the change. You know, be open to the change. And you know, like, where I grew up, I mean, it wasn't really like that at one point in time.
Well, I grew up in a house where, like, my mother was a very peaceful, kind person. You know, we went to church all the time. My mother helped the less fortunate people in the neighborhood. My mother was in invalid, I guess, care. You know what I'm saying? So my mother has a lot of compassion in her heart. You know, and I remember, you know, my mother didn't. I didn't hear my mother curse when I was maybe 17, 18 years old. But I remember, like, I had a crush on a white girl, when I was in elementary school in the 5th grade. I was in love with this girl. And I remember going to my mom and being like, yo, I like this girl. And she was like, who is she? She was like, Jennifer. And I was like, Jennifer. She's like, oh, that's a nice name. Well, you know, what are mom and dad doing? I said, I don't know. They white people, so I don't know. She was like, oh, no, you can't bring no white girl to my house.
How did that affect you, man?
It was very surprising that that was the first time that the racism I was dealing with was insular, was in the house.
Right.
You know, I had never heard my mother or my father really have an opinion on white people in the sense of don't do that.
Or in people in general.
Yeah. I had never heard my mother speak ill of anybody in that sense like that. And that was kind of off-putting. And I was like, why not? You're like, you know, it's a lot of black girls. Before you get to the white girl, you got to pass up probably a whole bunch of black girls. Right. So maybe give one of them a chance before you get to the white girl, you know? And that was something that stuck with me for a long time. Like, you know, it just wasn't done in their time.
Right.
You know? And so I guess the thinking is that it's just not done, period.
Right.
But times obviously were changing.
Of course. I mean, and even though times are still changing, that's still been going on since time immemorial, all since we've been here. You know,
Absolutely.
like I think once again with the advent of white racist supremacy, it became like we cannot do this. But people have been race mixing from day one.
Oh, yeah. And the flip side of this is being color struck.
Right.
Right.
The flip side that the white man's ice is colder.
That my grandmother loved her dearly, but one of the things she told me was, "Don't bring all these dark women into my house." Right. So she had the equivalent of the paper bag test. Remember
she
paper bag
was
test,
fair-skinned.
right? That folks lighter than the paper bag were okay.
Okay, yes.
Darker than the paper bag, you got a problem, right? So color struck.
What is the concept? You wrote about this of the problem of evil in the African American religious thought. What is that?
See, this is the issue for me.
Right.
That traditions like Christianity, and I'll pick on Christianity now, and if you want to extend the conversation, we can, but Christianity has an issue. And academics talk about this issue as the problem of evil or theodicy. What can you say about God in light of human suffering in the world? So you got this thing that Christians have to understand as real God, and this thing they cannot deny, the bullshit of life, evil, moral evil. How do you bring these two together in a way that makes sense? God's got to be in control of things. Otherwise, why talk about God, right?
Right.
But they cannot deny that their experience has been harsh. My concern, my problem is this, that most black Christians solve this by giving suffering a benefit, right? That suffering is a wonderful thing, that no cross, no crown.
Right.
I heard that in church how many times? Prof, how many times did you hear that in church?
I might have heard it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, no cross, no crown, or we're tried like gold in the fire, right?
To get accepted into the afterlife, correct?
Well, just that suffering becomes a mark of our righteousness.
Right.
That the devil's on us because the devil knows I'm right.
Right.
Right. So we take suffering as a positive, and I don't know how black folks can try to promote social transformation by saying that the shit they encounter has some sort of benefit.
Or justification.
I know
Exactly.
a lot of that is where Clarence comes in too. I think Clarence used a lot of that notion to like
Clarence
X.
Okay.
You know, and talking about how, you know, why you keep constantly praying to this God, you know, that is doing nothing for you. You're still right where you were and nothing's happened, and you're trying to prove that God is looking out for you, like he says, because the devil is watching you. So obviously if the devil wants you, it's because you're doing something right and you're chosen by God.
Right,
and that's why
right,
you're going
right.
through what you're going through, you know. And Clarence X was like, if you just got up off your ass
You'd be
and did something for yourself,
Yeah.
instead of sitting in that house waiting for this imaginary person to come and change everything for you and, you know, become your own God, you know, then maybe things might work out a little bit different for you.
Internets, once again, this portion of the Combat Jack Show is brought to you by Bevel, the first and only shaving system designed specifically for coarse and curly hair and sensitive skin. Now, if you're a fan of the Combat Jack Show, you know why I fucks with Bevel so heavy. I fucks with Bevel because they don't bullshit you. You pay money to get a superior product, and that's what you get. Another reason why I fuck with Bevel so heavy is because it's been approved by an African-American dermatologist. That Bevel reduces and prevents razor bumps. It's designed from the ground up to give you a smooth, bump-free shave. Finally, we fucks with Bevel because of Tristan Walker. Tristan Walker is a homie from Queens, New York. He's a golden child out in Silicon Valley. He's an entrepreneur. He saw the hole in this African-American grooming market, and he sold it. Stop playing around, shaving like a heathen, walking around like you have no type of sense, education, or job in your life. Man up. Be a gentleman. Cop that Bevel. Go to getbevel.com, GETBEVEL.com. Punch in promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. That's me, COMBAT, for 20% off all goods and services. Once again, that's getbevel.com, promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. Stop shaving like you lost your goddamn mind, boy. And now back to the show. You know what I find very dangerous is when a group of people look at the people across the way, or at that table, or across the waters, the whole nine, and they label those people evil. Mm-hmm. Because once you label somebody or a group of people evil, then in a sense, they're no longer human. And that gives you justification to do whatever
Do whatever you want
to do about it. And I find that, you know, particularly I found, you know, I'm a very optimistic cat. And I remember when 9/11 happened, I thought that this was an opportunity for us to say, okay, how do we straighten this out? Mm-hmm. Before we even got there, we labeled the people's evil. And
The evil axis.
And then we just,
the axis of evil.
And then we just continued with
Right.
the evil. Do you find that also like one of the major downfallings of religion, of like pointing to the evil?
Oh, yeah. I mean, religions are based upon an insider and an outsider.
Right.
The insiders are the folks within that tradition. Outsiders, you do whatever you want to them because they don't have the truth. And in some way, they don't matter as much.
They don't matter.
And that's a problem.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole concept behind ISIS. You know, that's why they feel, groups like that feel justified in doing what they're doing, because it doesn't really matter. You're not God's chosen people anyway. We're God's chosen people. So if you're not in line with what we're doing, you don't matter to God, therefore you don't matter to us.
Why do we find in the most dominant religions, you know, we're talking about Islam, we're talking about Christianity, we're talking about Judaism, why does that exist so prominently? The casting of, you know, we are the chosen people, we're the saved people, we're the good people, you know, we're on a mission from God, and damn everybody. Why is that so prominent?
Those three share a book, right? They're people of the book. So in one shape or another, they are drawing from the same sacred text. And this sacred text is all about a group being privileged and having the capacity, having the right actually to do whatever they want to do to secure what they've been promised, right? So, of course, these three traditions walk away with this assumption that folks who are favored by God have the right to do whatever they need to do to spread their faith and to get the goods.
Doctor, is it part of your mission in this course to change that? in religion?
We think that knowledge is power.
Yes.
So if we can get students to critically think about the world and to use these two cultural developments that have influenced and impacted the world, if we can get them thinking about this, raising questions and producing new answers, we can get them living differently. And if they're living differently, they can change the societies in which they dwell.
Because we tend not to look very critically or judge very critically our own faith, correct?
No.
You mentioned Clarence 13X.
Yes.
You guys talk about the prevalence of, the nation of the gods and the earth.
Yeah. You can't have a conversation about hip hop and religion without acknowledging the influence that the 5% Nation and the religion of Islam
right.
has had in the culture. I mean, from the leaders of our culture to the terminology that has come from the 5% Nation, which is everyday talk here, building ciphers,
peace,
peace, all these different things come from the culture. And because a lot of the greatest practitioners of hip hop were from that religious sect, it's been kind of, it just really just put upon us that these were important terms to learn. I remember being in Texas as a hip hop fan and listening to some of this terminology and not really knowing everything. You can tell by the context in which the way the term was used, a vague idea of maybe what it meant. But if you didn't have anyone that had, really studied and, knew the mathematics.
To translate that, right.
Yeah, then you really were just kind of left out. I mean, that was for a lot of things. I mean, we didn't understand the 5% terms. We didn't understand what $1.50 meant either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So it was also like the whole different.
So that was a whole thing to like try to figure out what these terms meant.
Right.
And then once you did that, Rakim became so much of a deeper individual. KRS-One became so much more of a deeper individual. People like Big Daddy Kane and I mean, I remember listening to you listen to early Just Ice records and you go that far, there's a lot of knowledge that was kicked in a lot of hip hop, Poor Righteous Teachers, like him, Shabazz, a lot of people, some of it subtle, some of it very brazen,
right.
But
I think that's a great thing about, regions like, coming up in New York, like what was lean, you know what I'm saying? What was blaze? What was, slabs, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Candy paint, like just once you understood or got a grasp of what those terms meant, then it painted a better picture of the music that you was listening to.
Well, yeah, I mean, even with the West Coast with Pendletons and Dickies, I remember
Gats. What the hell? I remember just first time I heard, what is a gat? And I think we all asked that. Like, what are these West Coast cats talking about?
They're pulling out the gat. They're busting the gat. I guess that means gun.
Yeah.
I guess. If they're pulling out something else and busting it, I don't want to know.
Hey, bayo, right.
We were talking about the Trulies.
Yeah.
That
Carried by the Moolies. What are some of the required reading for your courses? For your course?
So Bun and I have edited a book along with Monica Miller, who teaches at Lehigh University, that looks at religion and hip hop. So we pull from that. We pull from some of the earlier stuff that I've done. We pull from work by Trisha Rose, Mark Anthony Neal,
yes,
Michael Dyson, Angela Nelson. I mean, there are a variety of folks from which
we even added Decoded. Decoded is a part.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was in college, man, like we didn't have courses on hip hop. But if I had a chance to take a course on religion, I would, because I knew it was an easy course. So now you got a course with hip hop and religion, man. Is it an easy course? Man?
It's not an easy course,
man. They got to work.
I think that
y'all fail students.
We've had a whole lot of D's.
Whole lot of D's.
Lot of D's.
Yeah. I mean, people come.
Why not F's?
They did enough to get a D.
Okay.
We try to work with these kids as much as possible.
Right.
But I mean, the reality is that, the idea, if you're a hip hop fan, right, then the idea of Bun B teaching your class is, that's sexy.
Yeah.
That's and then you're thinking that, well, if Bun B's teaching it, not to say that I'm stupid, but it can't be that intense, but I'm not teaching it by myself. And I'm not a sucker.
You're not teaching about UGK. You're not teaching
about
I mean,
the thing is, okay, Bun B's teaching a course, right? So like Bun B will come in, probably talk about a little rap, play a song or two, show a video, and then we out this bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
I'm taking that class.
Yeah, this is one of those classes like, we should take Bun B's class, and that'll be an easy one right there, no problem. And then, from the first day, we make it very clear that, we give them a list and they see everything that they have to read and everything that they have to do to be prepared for the course. And You know, I'm there as professor. Like I've worked very hard to maintain my integrity on the academy. So there's no calling me Bun B.
They have to call you Professor Freeman.
It's Prof.
Prof.
In the context of the classroom, I'm
Right.
teaching. I'm the educator. I'm the professor. You refer to me as Professor Freeman or Prof.
Right.
And that was something that was Doc's idea.
Right.
Doc was like, you're coming in, you're doing the hard work, you're preparing, you're doing everything that you need to do to acknowledge your place in here and to demand the respect of the position. So it's only right that these students give you the respect.
Yeah, you're not a peer. You're not a peer.
No.
Not on campus.
Right.
Now, we meet outside the campus at Burger King or Timmy Chan's or something, or you come to a Bun B show, then obviously I'm Bun B. But even still, my students they call me Prof. Off campus, they call me Prof.
Do you find some of your students having a hard time grasping with that?
Not really, because the majority of our students don't come from a hip-hop background. A lot of them are taking a course to get an understanding of it, like the ones that stay. Like, Of course, there's a few that come in and then they realize it's real work and they're like, okay, I got to drop this immediately.
Right.
You know,
This is not going to work.
No, it's not going to work. I got other shit. If I'm going to be reading 8 books, I probably need to read them based on my major.
Right.
Those are the guys that are handing you the CDs. You know, like some people, you'd be surprised at somebody that.
There's a bit of audacity every now and then where people think that we're going to do CDs and we let them know we have no problem accepting demos. You can turn it in when you turn in your final.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So just hold on to that thing, and at the end of the course, after you taking your midterm and you've done the work, and then we come back around and you take the final. When you turn in your final exam for the course on the last day, we'll put a little box up here, and you can put your demo in there too. And we have had people actually turn in demos, but nobody looking for a deal, just really about expressing themselves.
Right.
Like, this is how I feel. I'm using this as a way of expressing myself. I don't know if I'm probably not going to make it, but I just want you to hear it and tell me what you think about it.
You hear some hot shit, man?
I heard some deep shit.
Right. That's some hot shit.
I heard some deep shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot more.
Students, step your bars up.
No, the bars is cool. Usually the music is the problem.
Right, the production.
Yeah, but what they're talking about, man, like I said, we got to, we're at Rice University, so we got some sharp cats.
Right.
There's no suckers over there like that. So, I mean, they're going for it. Some of that shit might be a little bit too deep.
Right.
For commerce or radio or whatever. But like I said, some of them, they're just doing it to really express themselves. They're at a very impressionable age. You know what I'm saying? They're very vulnerable. And they just want to be, they just want to be heard and seen sometimes.
What's the most challenge both of you have been in your course with regard to your students?
With regard to the students?
Yeah, like how have they challenged you the most, man? Both of you.
For me, I think the female aspect of it,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, how do you even handle that? Both of y'all, man. Like,
that was rough. It could be rough. I mean, we have female representatives, like we have female teaching assistants
right.
that help deal with it. But, I mean, there's very valid points about the way the female is viewed, portrayed, and allowed to participate in both religion and hip-hop.
Right.
So we've had some very strong voices about that for pros and cons and both sides. And luckily we have very competent female teaching assistants that can not only help with those answers, but then, they lecture too. We give an opportunity for our teaching assistants, each teaching assistant, to lecture on a particular topic. So our female teaching assistants are all in a position to tackle that subject.
See, I never thought about it like that in terms of like how both hip hop and religion tend to be
objectifying.
Very, very chauvinistic.
And that has been the challenge, right? Because we see the world as black men, and so the examples we typically pull from revolve around black men. So that has been a point of concern, making certain that we provide a bit more balance so that students understand the roles that women have played and the challenges they've raised with respect to both hip-hop and religion.
And it's crazy, man, because historically you will find that those who have been oppressed tend to be great oppressors. And with this whole rising tide right now in social media, particularly with feminism, particularly with black feminism, I'm surprised at all the hateful shit we as men are saying online about how we are not trying to knock down the whole concept of female empowerment and feminism, whatever that might mean. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm shocked.
Well, as men, we're often off-put when women challenge us.
Yes.
I think particularly within black culture, and, I think every man wants to think of himself as an alpha male.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a bit of that in there. And, but I think a lot of what these women feel and say is justified.
Yeah, of course.
And
a lot.
and we have to do a better job of allowing them to be heard, because even if we can't change the dynamics of everything,
right.
I think really as long as we're letting them be heard,
right.
letting them be more active.
As long as we're listening. That's really the point too, because I find that as a black man, when we talk about racism to the dominant society, they don't understand what the hell we're talking about, and they tend to dismiss us. And I find when women talk about how they see sexism in everyday situations,
that
we're like,
dismissive.
Stop playing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Once again, why are you guys taking this online, and why is it free?
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of interest from people. I mean, even within the university, like say for example, just right there at Rice University. All right, there's a limited number of slots that we can allow students to take. Right, so there's students on campus that are like, there's this great course going on and I can't take it.
Right.
I wish I could take it. Can I audit it? Okay, I can't audit it. Well, how do I get to be a part of this conversation? I take that out into the city. There's other universities, TSU, U of H, Prairie View, students at these other universities. Why don't we have a course like this at our school? How can we be a part of something like that? Leave outside of Houston, go out into the Sam Houstons, and the Houston, all these different universities. UT, Texas A&M, universities around Texas. This class at Rice sounds cool. Why can't we take it? Take it outside of Texas. Kids in universities in California, New York, Washington, D.C. Take it out of America. Students in Paris, London, Brazil. People all over the world are interested in the dynamic between hip-hop and religion. Right. When you say that, like, what's your course about hip-hop and religion? No, you can't just tell me that. Right. You got to explain that to me, Because hip-hop people want to know where religion comes in. Religious people want to know where hip-hop comes in, right. And like Doc said, these are two of the most powerful cultures that exist in modern time. So this is an opportunity for all these different people on all these different levels that have wanted to be a part of the conversation, wanted to have somewhat of a look into this classroom and see exactly how we're drawing these connections between these two very strong and powerful and dynamic cultures. And that's where the interest with this class comes from. And Rice University is now allowing and affording us the opportunity to offer this course free as a MOOC to people around the world. Right. And when that kind of thing comes across the desk, you got to take advantage of it.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doctor.
And it also provides us with an opportunity to rethink how we teach and where we teach. So for us, over the 2 times we've been teaching this, and we'll have this conversation again when we teach it in the fall, we're trying to do this in a way that's innovative, right? In a way that represents hip-hop and religion in ways that students aren't necessarily used to. We want to push them outside of their comfort zone so they can learn something. And this online course frees us to do it however we want to do it. So this course, none of it takes place on campus. Right. All of it takes place in locations in the larger Houston community. So this was important for us. Prof mentioned that there's interest from students around the globe. Right now, we have 108 countries represented, right? 108 countries where students have signed up and are taking this course. For us,
108 countries so far.
Yeah, we have representatives from
have registered.
Yes,
have registered. Right. For us, this was an opportunity to take a conversation that we say is vital to a much larger audience.
What countries have surprised you the most in terms of those that have people from those countries that have registered?
Oh, none of them have really been a surprise.
Okay.
None of them have been a surprise.
Middle East, have a lot of people from the Middle East signed up?
Middle East, I mean, we've got China, we've got Japan, of course, Korea.
China.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, is there a window? Like, is this taught in real time? Like, do I have to register by a certain date?
The course starts March 24th.
Right.
And so, folks, this is prime time to register, and it's easy. Again, it's free. And registering is easy. All folks need to do is go to edx.org and then search for religion and hip hop culture. Click a couple of buttons and boom, they're registered for the class. Right. It's easy.
Let me ask you, what, obviously the class has been popular. I know that around.
The live class, right?
Yeah, around campus, it's been a big deal. People talking about it. Now, as far as the higher ups, what made them want to do this, meaning Pusha T online? Because there had to be a point where they says, holy shit, this is working. Take this and go out to the world.
I'll take this one so it's not to put Doc in a funny position.
I'm not scared.
Yeah, but I mean, it was literally when we were teaching this course, if I'm not mistaken, during the fundraising year. And
our capital campaign,
yeah, and
$1 billion.
We're trying to raise money for the university.
Right.
And as word got out of the class, different people that were funding to different schools and different departments were like, hey, can we meet the rapper? Like, my kids like the rapper. So different schools that may have, so maybe different schools and that may have looked at us with a raised nose was like, yo, we need to get this money. Somebody call Tony and see if. So I mean, we went from a period where the prevost and the president were like, okay now, all right now,
Right.
Hey, all right now, to where, hey guys,
Hey.
we have 13 different dinners that people would love to invite you to. We started getting invited to everything happening on campus.
That's awesome, man.
Particularly the fundraising,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, for us, we knew that there was trepidation, and
Of course.
But Doc wasn't scared, so there was no need for me to be scared. So I'm like, if he ain't scared of the people over there, then I ain't scared.
Right.
But, we were very sincere about what we were trying to do, We weren't trying to do it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
We wanted to do it for very real reasons. And once people actually saw the effect that we were having on the students and the reception of the idea and just the idea and the concept of this course from people around, other institutions and whatnot, they kind of like, you know what? Do y'all thing. Shit. Go ahead and do your thing.
How challenging will the online course be?
There's a lot of work students will have to do, but it's manageable because we know folks have busy lives, they've got jobs, etc. So the work is manageable, but they've got a little reading they have to do. We want them to be involved in terms of the social challenge questions there. So they got to do a little work. Our attitude is this. If you're serious about this topic, then you got to put in some work.
Some work, yes.
Right? You got to do something.
Right.
And so we try to make it manageable, but also interesting and challenging.
Yo, Pete, man, you want to take this course?
Of course I would. I would love to, because I'll tell you one thing. In order to further hip-hop, you got to teach the youth. You got to teach the people. And, I was telling Bun and I was telling you, with this episode, not only is it a chance for people to do that, but it's also a chance to show that it's another good effort
Right.
in furthering the culture of hip-hop.
Right.
People want to find out what's going on in love in hip-hop. No. Why don't you find out what's going on in hip-hop and religion and find out what this culture is about?
Are there credits that are given out with this course?
There's no credit at this point, but
Right.
students can get a certificate. It's a small fee, and they'll get a certificate that's signed by both of us indicating that they've completed and they complete it with a particular grade.
Right. Okay.
Because you can't just sign up for it and kind of take it off and on. That's
Right.
at your own discretion whether or not you want to fully. But for the people that do the work and actually, take the time that it takes to manage the schedule and manage the assignments and do the work, a lot of people want proof that they did it and
Right.
how they did it and did it well.
So,
And we provide that.
what's the capacity in terms of how many people can take the course?
Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite.
How many people can get on the internet?
So, how do you guys grade all of these individual students?
That's
What's that process?
We've
like?
got a good group of teaching assistants.
Right.
Most of them have been involved in the residential course.
Right.
We also have folks in the community who are partnering with us. They're course facilitators, and they're going to help us manage some of this. But many of the assignments are monitored and graded by the students.
Okay.
So everybody's we want the students not only communicating with us and the teaching assistants, we want them communicating with each other.
Right. And if there's a case where there are students that are exceptional or there are students that are exceptionally bad, will they ever maybe get a personal response from Prof or from you?
We'll be in touch with some of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the teaching assistants will be in touch with a whole lot of them.
Yeah,
and then Doc and I will be having different conversations online.
Right.
Right.
During the course, say week 1, week 2, depending on the subject matter. Doc and I will have conversations back and forth between each other on social media that the
Right.
students will be able to monitor and also be a part of.
So it is a possibility if I take this course and I'm fucking up that one of you might be like, "Yo, Reg, you need to turn your work in."
Bun is going to G-chat you.
I'm just gonna be like, "Yo, you serious right now?" I'm be like, "My nigga, like, are you serious right now?"
Like, come on, man, you registered. Why you wasting my time?
Like, come on, like, why do that? Why start this if you ain't gonna finish it?
damn work.
That's great, man. That's great.
What has been some of the greatest testimonials of kids and people taking the class?
Kids are just very humble, and kids are just like, yo, thank you for making this even more than what we thought it was, because a lot of people thought, like, especially you got kids that come over from the business school. We got athletes that come over, architect kids. We got kids from all these other different schools that come over and take this course. And it's a lot of hard work for a course that isn't along the line of your major.
Yeah. Right. Isn't a requirement.
You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate them, and we found that they appreciate us because we're giving them the information to be able to apply and challenge themselves in a very real way in every other course that they're taking. So they could take the lessons and the conversation, but more important, the ideas and the application of these ideas with them into not just other classes, but into life itself.
Yeah. Right. So there have been letters and emails and phone calls from former students who are saying, look, what you and Prof taught us in class, I'm still using that. I'm still thinking about it.
So this is like a lifelong tool, a lifelong.
Hopefully,
that you're giving to the students to take.
We hope that the things that they learn in this course, that they're able to apply these in say, if they're in the academy, professionally, personally, forever.
Right. How's this course changed you, Bun?
Well, I'm a teacher now, so I was a class clown.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I personally feel like I should write an apology letter to every teacher that I've ever had because I'm on the other side of the desk now, and it's a very real job. And keep in mind, I'm in the position where I teach people that actually want to be taught.
Right.
We're not talking about the high school teacher in 2015.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The middle school teacher in 2015, the elementary teacher in 2015. They're dealing with a lot of other things that I don't have to deal with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I teach at a private university. It costs a lot to go to this university. There's a high level.
With that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the kids that I have in my class, they're there specifically to try to learn. And, it's a big difference. So I commend people that, take it upon themselves to educate in this day and age when there's no appreciation for it, there's no compensation for it, there's no admiration for it, and yet they still get up every day and go into a classroom full of students that may or may not even want to be in that class and do the hard work. Right. I have to commend that. Yeah.
Has this course changed your life, Doctor?
And this has been a treat for me. This has been a high point. I've been doing this for about 21 years now, and this has been a high point for me. Just having these conversations with Prof in the classroom has been transformative. It's a different level of understanding
in terms of frequency.
Oh yeah.
Right.
In terms of a culture that has influenced and informed me over the course of decades.
Right.
This has been quite a treat. It also has given me a way to think about how I do my job differently, not just in terms of this course, but how I do my job differently now.
I read somewhere on social media this weekend that music is the sound of the emotion. And that got me to thinking, particularly in preparation for this episode, how when we think of the arts, like when we look at the arts, music is one of the strongest reflections of what religion must sound like. Does that come into your mind when you teach this course about how powerful the spirit is in music?
Oh, for sure. That there's something poetic about life, right? Something poetic about life, and the arts, particularly music, captures this best. It understands and it connects to the rhythm of our lives in a way that other forms of expression just can't get.
Right. And do you find also that certain frequencies of music also take away from the spirit?
Take away from the spirit?
I've heard certain patterns of rhythms, we tend to get lulled by certain beats, by certain frequencies.
That's an interesting...
just as music can lift us.
That's an interesting
If music
concept.
can lift us, music can also...
Well, I've seen music bring out the best in people, and I've seen... But those are people that are trying to do their best, so that music becomes the inspiration for them to do better.
Right.
And then you have people who are already in kind of a funk. And
we've seen music bring the worst out in some
that's
people.
what I'm saying. But these are people who are already in very ugly places in life.
Of course.
And then your music with the wrong tone and the wrong context, basically sends them further down the road.
Right.
That they don't need to be going down in the first place. So if you're in a good mood and happy comes on, you're in a better mood.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that because I remember back in the day listening to a local station around here called 106.7. I don't know, that doesn't go as far as Houston. But I remember being in relationships and hearing like sad songs and literally like doing that because I felt sad and I would be even more sad and then you would wind up calling, like a girlfriend that you broke up with because you listened to the song that made you.
Oh, I had my heart broken when End of the Road came out. Boys to Men.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't care what kind of day I was having. That song comes on. Like I'm old school, so I don't know. Like The Deal. Anybody remember The Deal?
Yes,
that was
remember.
Babyface's group.
Of course.
Before that, so Sweet November,
Yes.
like songs like that. I couldn't stand to hear songs like that. Like for me, a love song didn't have any code and context with me, like old Isley Brother records and all that, Between the Sheets. I had no idea what that kind of thing meant. Then you get older and these songs that you heard
Have more meaning.
And for sometimes like, yo, I'm listening to a song for 15 years and today I realize it's about me.
It's about,
It hits you where you live,
Yes.
and it depends on the context.
Gentlemen, once again, tell our audience where they can find this course and when they need to register.
This course takes place on March 24th.
Yes.
So you need to register before then. You go to www.edx.org, .com, because I made that mistake once or twice today, and look up Religion and Hip Hop. Its official course title is Reli, R-E-L-I 157X, if you have any trouble. So somewhere between Religion and Hip Hop and Reli 157X at www.edx.org. You should have no problem finding this course.
And it's an 8-week course.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay.
6 weeks.
Excellent. Anything else you want to leave our audience with, man?
Thank you for affording us the opportunity to come and talk about this. We know that this might not be as salacious as a lot of other things that people tend to talk
this
about.
This is the
with
Combat
hip-hop.
Jack Show, man.
But this is something we feel very strongly about. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this. This is not a job that we do for money. We do this for passion.
Right.
It's kind of like with me and Pete, with You Gotta Eat This. Me and Pete make like $5 a month.
So some beer money?
Yeah, some bad money. But
We don't make enough. Pete and I don't make enough to tip the waiter
Oh,
at some of
man.
these restaurants.
Yo, Complex, what's up, man?
But the restaurant hopefully will take care of the bill.
What?
No, I mean, listen, that's a hope is a joy. As we're leaving this episode, I do want to say, like I said before, hip hop is definitely doing things like this. Like when he said this is not really like a big warranted where people like, but at the end of the day, this is what hip hop is.
Right.
Hip hop is being diversified. Is being like Bun, a person that not only is a friend to me, but to this world is somebody that has shown people how to be so diversified. Has shown people how to not. You don't have to be put in a box. I mean. There's so many things that people know that Bun has done and that inspires and motivates and mentors and his friends and cares for people. But one thing I love most is that he always takes it to a next level.
Yes.
I mean, look.
Every Bun B episode is a different type of episode.
Exactly. But not only that, he recently did a couple months ago, he did a Rembrandt commercial.
Right.
I mean, come on. If that don't get more diversified than that.
Wait, by the way, how's the coloring book, man?
Coloring book is good.
I love the coloring book, man.
See, the problem with the coloring book is that the publishers would love for us to do more copies, but the guy that draws the book and co-creates all the different exercises with me, he has a regular life.
Yes.
He's a writer.
We're talking about Shay, right?
Yeah, Shay. So Shay, he's doing writing for all these ESPN and all these other things. But Shay's a middle school teacher.
Yes.
He's a football coach.
Yes.
He's a father of 3 now.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And going from like this dude literally went from being like a science teacher to having the mayor come and say hi, and I want to buy directly to him, like I want to buy your book,
right?
And I'd love for you to sign my book and take a picture with me. It was pretty mind blowing, and this happened on the day that his family surprised him. We had a bookstore signing, and in Houston, and we were literally like 4 blocks away from where the mayor had a speaking engagement.
Right.
So as she was leaving, she was like, "Yo, what's going on over there?" And someone's like, I think Bun B is doing his book release. She was like, oh, we got to stop.
Yeah.
We got to stop and say what's up.
No, we got to see some more volumes of that because I think that,
we want to do more, but again, it's not easy for somebody who's not of this, like say for example, Doc.
Yes.
Doc does promo, obviously, and he's published, several books. So he had to go out and promote these kind of things, but not in this world, not in this sense. So this is a lot different. So if you're not of this world,
it's a lot, man.
It could be a lot.
It's a lot, man.
Maybe next one there'll be a Combat Jack Show page in there.
Actually,
on some B-boy.
Shay did send me the Combat.
Yeah, I know. We made for certain people that we sent the book earlier.
Oh yeah,
He made custom pages.
Yes, and I love that, man.
For the people that we sent them to. See, this thing existed as a Tumblr before it was a book.
Right.
But when we first pitched it, nobody really wanted to fuck with it. People didn't really get it. So what Shay did was he created a Tumblr, and then every couple of days he would create a new page to get people interested. And then when we redid it, he was like, yo, you know what? The stuff that doesn't make the book, like, we still need to do other shit. So he came up with the idea of like, yo, when we send this to people early, maybe I should do pictures of them.
I saw Beat Out from Rap Radar. I saw a couple of images.
That Rob was tripping, like Rob Markman.
Yeah, Rob Markman, yeah.
Rob was tripping, like because these guys, they don't get that.
No, not at all.
Mama made it. Mama made it. Listen, comment before we go with Dr. Anthony Pinn. I want to say this. You know, listening to you and your story, and especially the course and everything, I want to use the example as I talk about brands. You know, sometimes I feel like they don't hire the right person to then, you know.
Well, they don't hire Premium Pete when they need to.
No.
But that's what we're talking about.
No, hold up. I'm going to explain to you.
Right.
They don't hire the right people that push and are able to push the buttons and really be authentic. And I feel like with Dr. Anthony Pinn being in Rice University and being that person that says, I'll take the chance and I'll do that, then he gives people a chance to really get that authentic, you know, push and culture and for people to really experience the realness of it. So I commend you on that, man. It's definitely dope.
I appreciate you both. My attitude was, look, you asked me to come to Rice. You know who I am.
Right.
You know what I love. You know what I do. So let me do what I do. And there are circumstances when it's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission.
Of course.
So Bun needed to co-teach with me. So I went to administration and said, this is what's going to happen. And I just want you to know. And they made the mistake of Googling. Rather than asking me, they Googled.
Right.
And so there were some issues, but I told them, look, you need to trust me to do what I do.
Right.
This is the way we need to go. And my attitude was Rice cannot talk about connecting to the Houston community without doing it. That's just bullshit. If you're going to talk about connecting to the community, we need to do it.
Right.
And this was a way to do it.
I mean, and not saying that Bun is questionable, but
No.
at the end of the day, man, one of the greatest things about Jesus was he ran with a questionable crew.
Right.
He ran with a questionable crew. Man. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Listen, gentlemen, thank you once again. Let us know, activate us, help us help you, whatever it is that we need to do. We're definitely here for you guys.
Appreciate you.
Pete, you know what it is. Dream those dreams and then man up and live those dreams, because a life without dreams is black and white and the universe flows in technicolor and surround sound.
Blow.
Illuminati!
This episode of the Combat Jack Show was produced by Jonathan Mena, executive produced by A. King and Chris Morrow, engineered by Samir Karan, and recorded in the Engine Room Audio Studio in downtown Manhattan. This is an official Loudspeakers Networks production.